pleasure to be back in the St. Joseph School District, and I appreciate it very much. I've really come to know Dr. Smith's personality well. And one thing for sure, I really have an appreciation for all the people here who work so hard, because I have seen every school, met probably every teacher, been in and out of every room. I've seen so many kids, I don't think I'd recognize my own children. This morning, she even had me on a radio talk show. Barry Burr, do you know Barry? What a neat fella. It was my first time, so I'll admit I was pretty nervous. But it was really an enjoyable experience, and it's a pleasure to be back. I also notice everybody sits in the back of the room when they come in. Some people told me why. Had to do with church. One day I did a workshop like this, and I actually went to the other end and gave my talk from there, and they said, darn, they couldn't get away from me. I'm talking tonight about another aspect of facility master planning, and that is determining the size of your school and being effective and efficient in planning that size. My objectives, if you can see those, and I'll read them to you. I want to discuss the workshop objectives. I'd like to tour some schools like I did last time. I'd like to remind some of your newcomers here this evening of the background of Franklin Hill and Associates. And then I'd like to talk about what is an objective for determining the correct school size of elementary, middle, and high schools. And very importantly, what becomes a criteria for being effective and efficient in determining that size. And finally, a successful process for involvement. So let me ask you a question. I've asked for show of hand a couple times. How many people were at my month ago presentation? Okay, so for clarity for me, how many people weren't at that presentation? You're in trouble. No, I'm glad you're here tonight. One of the most important aspects of this is to have as many people as possible come to these events, and I'm glad you're here. What's the objective I have for this workshop tonight? I'd like to conduct a presentation, workshop, and involvement activity that will outline various grade configurations and educational options that can occur within a K-12 program. Then, compare school size and cost implications on educational delivery to determine the most effective and efficient. You're going to hear those words a lot. Effective and efficient size for elementary and middle schools in particular. Finally, suggest a high school configuration offering the best educational/financial options appropriate for the St. Joseph School District. During these economic times, I think it's absolutely emphatic that governments, and particularly school districts, of course, be effective and efficient in all of their decisions. And tonight I'd like to really show again how the facility aspects of the capital infrastructure help us accomplish that. So if I may, I'd like to take a tour of some of your schools. I have some pictures from last time and some new ones today. I'll tell you, I've been to many, many schools. As you know, I've been to every single campus. If you've been to these schools or attended these schools, you're welcome to go rah-rah. There you go. But during the touring process, I'm looking for many things. What are the educational programs that are working well for you? What are the educational programs that are difficult for you to accomplish because of the educational facilities? And how can we either remodel or reinvestigate the use of a school for a future and better, more effective and efficient use? I'd like to start at the earlier grades. This is your preschool program. How many people even know there is a preschool program in the district? Not only is it an exceptional preschool program, it is the foundation for many of the learning models that you incorporate throughout your entire K-12 curriculum. So that's why I'm starting there. These youngsters are doing some kinesthetic learning using feathers. You might think that's rather rudimentary, and even more rudimentary, this youngster using noodles to create art, draw letters, and other things. But that kinesthetic learning style is very fundamental and is becoming a benchmark for education throughout a K-12 curriculum. I'm going to show how the St. Joseph School District is using that technique even in their most advanced science classes. So let's talk about science for a moment. What's the purpose of tonight? I want to remind us that we're doing many things well in the school district, both in terms of facilities and in terms of curriculum and technology. But I also want to demonstrate rather specifically where the educational facility is letting you down. So as we proceed through this simple example, it's going to become quite apparent and becomes a benchmark idea for the way the facility impacts learning. This is a science laboratory at a middle school, a very large one and nicely dimensioned. Very interestingly, this laptop computer is attached to peripherals that are measuring the oxygen being released by the plant that is located on the left side of that screen. It's a little hard for you to see possibly from where you're sitting, but that is the plant growing, and it's measuring its oxygen, recording it over time, and putting it onto the spreadsheet inside that computer. That's incredible for 7th grade. These students are doing an amazing educational activity. Working as a team, they're using their laptop computer, and it's projected up onto the large screen behind them. But notice right here is a telephone. Working in pairs, those students are texting the information that they're concluding to be applicable to the screen that's up on the front of the classroom, and that each other student can then see what the other students are seeing as important. Now you might say, why are they doing that? It's a recognition that the technology important to young people, the telephone and texting, can be incorporated properly into the classroom. Also, they can take that same issue home with them at night, understand and do research at home, and when they conclude an idea or come up with their answer, text it in and come back to class the next day and have it ready for them on the screen to discuss. I wanted to come back to that picture. The same old artwork is still part of the process, so we're not going so tech that we're not doing drawing and other things. So I want to come back to the plain art aspects of the educational process. But when I look at this picture, does anybody notice what's missing in this science lab? There's only one sink. So all the good technology issues and educational issues that I'm summarizing are still falling short because to not have lab stations, not have access to water, the importance of those features for science, biology, physics, and chemistry, it's obvious to everyone here tonight. Let's look at this picture. These are some 7th graders again doing a physics experiment in a lab. The thing I learned about this example is that the teacher was an elementary 5th and 6th grade teacher who's now moved to 7th grade. When we're doing the master plan, we want to be sure that we are looking at science, for example, and the arts and music throughout the entire K-12 curriculum, a point I'm going to come back to often this evening. So to see elementary teachers moving up the ladder, in this instance to middle school, will offer us some great talent to draw upon when we want to understand ways of enhancing science at the elementary grades, improving it at the middle grades, and also dealing with the important question of grade configuration. What grades should be mixed together for the best educational benefit? This teacher concluded, our 6th graders are more than capable of beginning this type of science experimentation, but the elementary programs don't really offer that kind of science to 6th grade. What's wrong, unfortunately, is this